Good morning. I'm Pastor Terry from Tuscola United Methodist Church. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd. Thank you so much for joining me for our daily devotion. As I've mentioned before, I'm taking this week and next week's devotions from John Piper's devotions called Coronavirus and Christ. I think he has some really interesting things to say on the matter. So today's scripture reading comes from the incredibly practical book of James, chapter 4, verses 13 through 15. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a town and spend a year there doing business and making money. Yet you do not even know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wishes, we will live and do this or that. John Piper says that before his cancer diagnosis, people would always say something like, how's your health doing? And he would answer, fine. He no longer answers that way. Instead, he says, I feel fine. And the reason that he's chosen to do this is because the day before he went into that exam that showed him he had cancer, he felt fine. The day after, he was told he had cancer. So, in other words, he wasn't fine. Even though he felt fine, he wasn't fine. So, that's kind of a lesson for all of us that as we're sitting here and I'm sitting here talking to you, I don't know if I'm fine. I feel fine. I feel pretty darn good today, actually. But for all I know, I have cancer right now, or a blood clot, or maybe I even have coronavirus. And I think that's kind of one of the interesting things, considering so many people are asymptomatic, that we could literally be carrying a disease in our body that could cause the death of someone and not even know it. So, yes, we're not fine. We don't know what is fine. So, what's the point of playing semantics with all of this? I'm fine. I feel fine. What's the difference? Well, the point is the ultimate reason that we shouldn't be saying, I'm fine, is because only God knows and decides if you are fine right now. If I sit here and tell you, hey, I'm fine, and I don't know that I'm fine, um, and I know that I don't control it, it'd be like me saying, hey, tomorrow I'm going to go over to Chicago and do some business there and make some money. I don't know if I am going to go to Chicago tomorrow. By the way, I'm not going to Chicago tomorrow, staying home safe. But I don't know. Say I planned a trip to Chicago. I could end up in the hospital tomorrow. I could end up having a flat tire. Millions of things could happen to keep me from going to Chicago. The only person, or the only being that knows whether or not I'm going to do business in Chicago is God, which is why we're told in James, stop saying that today or tomorrow we're going to do such and such and go to such and such a town and make money, because you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, we ought to be saying, if the Lord wills, we will do this or that. So, we've been talking a lot this week about the rock that we stand on, the rock in which we have our hope. And the rock is also God's action in the world now and forever. The Bible tells us that if the Lord wills it, we will live. And that's about as involved as we can get. Not just whether you live or die, you're going to be with God. That's what we learned our first day. But now we're also realizing that God will decide whether or not we live or die right now. And not just live or die. God's even more involved than that. It's not just the finger pointing and saying, your time is up. If the Lord wills, we will do this or that. Nothing is excluded from this or that. God is totally involved. Totally. This health or that sickness, this economic collapse or that recovery, this breath or no breath, which means that God is, in effect, saying to us in this crisis, Don't worry, because whether you live or die, you will be with me. And in the meantime, while you live, nothing will happen to you. Absolutely nothing will happen to you that I do not appoint. If I decide you will live, if I decide you will die, and until you die at my decision, I will decide if you do this or that. Now, that can seem a little upsetting in some ways, but I actually find it very comforting. It means that our rock, who has our best interest at heart, is taking care of us right now. We know that if we are not to survive this illness, or if we survive and the very next day we have a heart attack and die, that we will be with God. But we also know that nothing can happen to us that God has not ordained, which means if it is our time, it is our time. Now, we still take precautions. I still wear my mask. I still wear my gloves. I hope you are doing the same thing. But we know that this is our rock for today, for tomorrow, and for eternity. This is our rock that loves us, and this is our rock that without whom nothing would happen to us. So today's goal is kind of to show you why God is the rock at this moment in history, in this pandemic of this coronavirus, and what it's like to stand on God's mighty love, because it's an incredible thing. I miss you all, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.